In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 4 ways you can engage in personal training, 2 are employed and 2 are self-employed. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of which model suits you best. My name is Alexander Lyon. I've been working as a personal trainer in London for 10 years now. I'm currently earning around £90,000 a year, working 3 days per week. I help personal trainers to make more money and have more impact with their clients. And if that sounds good to you, then hit the subscribe button, click that little bell thing, and let's get into it. Now, before we get into this, it's important to understand that for the 10 years I've been PTing, I've always worked in central London, right? In Notting Hill, in Clapham, in Chelsea, in places like this, right? So my understanding of the market is predominantly London. A lot of the gyms we see in London are also around the UK and in other countries as well, but there may be slight exceptions and slight differences if you're in a different kind of location. But in general, the industry kind of follows these 4 models. Now, the first one is employed, but in brackets, when clients are given to you. So someone has a full list of clients they need servicing and they employ you to service those clients. Now, to my knowledge, there are very few gyms that offer this because a personal training client can be quite lucrative. So Raw Fitness, R-O-A-R, Raw Fitness, that's a gym in London. There's 2 of those now. And Ultimate Performance, which is a much bigger personal training transformation gym. That's all around the world now. There's loads of them up north in the UK as well. They're able to do that. They offer salaries between 25 and 35. If you get a little bit more senior, maybe you can hit 40, 45. But in general, it's that 30 to 35 range that you'll be looking at for these kind of gyms. The other thing to understand as well is you can also get this happen in leisure centers. The only difference is that in leisure centers, you're not going to be exclusively training a PT client base. You're going to be training, well, you're going to be cleaning a lot of treadmills, you can do a lot of admin, probably sat on reception for a while. So it's not really the same thing. Now, the reason why there's so few gyms that can offer this is because if they had loads of personal training leads and people putting their hands up to go do personal training, they would service them themselves because the money is good, but they don't often have that. So if they do have that, they need to make sure their profit margins are quite high because they can't guarantee that for long term, you've got 30 sessions a week, everyone's paying you 80 to 100 pounds an hour. That's not likely gonna happen. So they have to be smart in the way they give that out to employees. Now, one benefit of this is if you are really lacking confidence as a trainer, this might be an opportunity for you to go get proper technical experience on the gym floor, right? You don't need to worry about the sales, the marketing, or any other hats that you need to wear as a PT. You just have to focus on training them to the best of your ability. And in that respect, it can be a fantastic opportunity. On the other hand, your earnings are going to be limited. Let's say you spend 2-3 years in one of these establishments, you're going to want to start getting a pay rise, start getting what you're worth. You know your clients are paying these establishments more than £100 a session, and you're getting a lot less of that. So at some point, you're going to want to scale your earnings, and that's where you're going to fall into a trap where you can't scale your earnings because the company has to retain a certain level of profit margin. And if they were to scale your earnings, they would just be taking less money themselves because there's only so much you can charge for personal training. So the margins are kind of set the way they are. And, you know, without going into inflation and interest and anything like that, it's pretty much going to stay the same. So in London, as a pure employed personal trainer, it's very, very hard to get above 40K. Very hard. Now, moving on to the second model, we have employed again, but this time their clients are not provided for you. So let me break down what that means. First of all, the gyms that kind of offer this are usually David Lloyd, Virgin Active, Equinox, Third Space. All of these gyms, they'll charge their members 60 to 150 pounds for a personal training session, usually in that range. You will get 16 to 28 pounds per session. The argument on the gym's part is that they're doing the hard bit of the business, which is going and getting the clients. They have the brand, they have the exposure, they're able to attract clients and people to come and work and hand over their hard-earned money. You're just doing the easy bit, which is turning up to the gym and servicing them. I understand people may say that, but the coaching is the skill. True, but in terms of the business, like there's a step before that. If you're not good at selling and marketing, you have no one to train anyway, so it's irrelevant. Now, you might be thinking 16 to 28 pounds an hour doesn't seem like a lot, and it's not really, especially if I'm talking central London prices. But The attraction and why so many PTs go there is because they get into this mindset of, well, I'm going to the best gyms, the Third Spaces, the Equinoxes, the David Lloyds. I'm going to meet lots of wealthy people there. I'm going to take their number, and then I'm going to go train them somewhere else and charge them a lot more. They may be able to pay less, and I may be able to charge more, so everybody wins. However, it doesn't always work out as easy as you think. First of all, in these gyms, there are loads of personal trainers. Often in Third Spaces in London, there are between 25 and 35 personal trainers in one space. Second of all, there are a lot of non-compete clauses with these bougie gyms, which again makes your life more difficult if your intention is to essentially steal their clients. You shouldn't be doing that anyway, but even if you were going to try, it's very difficult to actually execute in practicality. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is you think, oh, rich person means great client. Well, not necessarily, because in a lot of those gyms, they're very transient. And those people, those clients, they're more aloof. They come into town, they go out of town. They come into town, they go out of town. So it's not like you've got a regular diary that you can rely on for your monthly paycheck. So again, that's another huge challenge that people don't consider. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of how these contracts work with the gyms, right? Again, there are differences, but a lot of them, they don't actually offer a salary. It essentially acts as a 0-hour contract, and then you get a slice of the pie if you're able to then go and sell personal training. Now, if you look at this from the gym's perspective, they have no reason why they wouldn't go and have 100 personal trainers, right? Other than it just crowded out, but why wouldn't they, right? Because then the members can, they can take the pick of the trainers, they can have lots of people there to service the members and do grunt work around the gym. For the PTs though, there's very little benefit to having that many people in one establishment, right? But you've got to understand that you're getting, they would argue, the gym, that you're getting the better end of the deal. And the reason you're getting the better end of the deal is because they're doing the hard part. They brought all these people into this one location. Now it's up to you to go and sell it. And that's very difficult when there's loads of trainers. These gyms are typically very cliquey as well. And also, it's just typically not a good vibe. There's a lot of people undercutting each other. There's not really much cohesion. It's a lot of very overt competition-like behavior, which is not a healthy way to run a gym with a bunch of hungry PTs looking to get paid. In my opinion, when you go to these gyms, unless you are good friends with the sales manager or the general manager, or you've got a way in terms of someone of big influence in the gym, whether it be even a member or someone within the management team, for me, this is a terrible choice because these gyms they're packaged in a certain way. It looks super shiny, like, oh my God, I get to work at Third Space. It's the best gym in London. But the problem is the actual experience and running a business, it's almost impossible. And it never works out like you think it's going to work out in those super high-end gyms. Now, before we move on to the two self-employed models, if you haven't already hit subscribe, please go ahead and do so now. And let's carry on with the third model, which is self-employed, but where you trade your hours for rent. What do I mean? In a lot of gyms, you'll pay rent to use their space, but a lot of gyms will understand that maybe you can't afford to pay rent right now, and you haven't got any clients yet. So how can you shell out £400, £500, £600 a month? You can't. So then what they do is they say, work for us for free for 10 to 15 hours a week, and then you don't have to pay rent. You have to pay rent, and you can just have access to the members and do your normal thing. Now, I'll get into that in a second, but the gyms that typically offer this are Pure Gym. Certain Pure Gyms do this. The Gym Group does this. What else? Gym Box does this to an extent as well. So there are a few, and these are more the high street gyms that we're talking about now. And this is usually where you find the least experienced personal trainers. Now, going back to the business model, the reason that gyms will say that that's a good deal is because you don't have the financial overhead, right? You don't have to deal with that. However, if you really do the maths, right? Let me try and do this on the spot. So you've got £600 a month rent, but then you're charging 15 hours per week instead. So that essentially works out to £10 an hour that you're doing that. So you're working £10 an hour, which is below the minimum wage, and you're doing that for 60 hours a month. Very difficult, because the idea behind this is that you're supposed to go and use that time to prospect and build your personal training base, right? But it never really works out like that because you end up cleaning so much doing all these classes that you don't want to do, having to do like random admin around the gym potentially, doing all these tasks that don't help you and your business. It only helps the business, right? The Pure Gym or the gym group. It doesn't help you. And the other thing as well is that typically in these gyms, they're in lower income areas, right? These models are in lower income areas because they know it's very difficult for a personal trainer to go and get onto full rent and be earning good money as a trainer, but they still want to be able to offer trainers to their members. So they basically go and get the least experienced trainers who then kind of buy into this model, getting, having the idea that, oh, that's smart, I don't have to pay as much money up front. But it's very short-sighted and it never works out like you think it's gonna work out. However, if you are someone where your overheads and your costs are already quite low, maybe your partner pays the bills, maybe you're still living at home, then this could actually be a good option for you. It could be, right? Because if you can use your time wisely, go in there with a super disciplined mindset and really just like go after it, then you can make that work. It's just the thing is, a lot of people go into those situations, quite frankly, without any pressure on them because somebody else is already paying the bills. There's not really much pressure for them to prospect and get clients and put themselves in uncomfortable situations. So they end up just not getting anywhere, right? They hang around for a few months. You'll see them walking around the gym floor saying hi to a couple members, and that's kind of it. And then they kind of filter away, they churn away, and then the next new PT comes in who's just qualified, and then you go through the same cycle. The other thing you have to consider with this as well is the gym's perspective. Now, from their perspective, if they could, as I said with Third Space, if they could have 100 personal trainers just cleaning the gym, helping their members, teaching classes for free, right? They're getting the good end of the deal. So for them, again, there's very little incentive to keep the amount of personal trainers to a sensible amount. They end up hiring way more than they need. And then as a result, you get this weird vibe in the gym again where maybe you've got 2,000 members, but 16, 17 personal trainers, and they're all like undercutting each other. It gets a bit toxic. People are getting really competitive. It's making the members and the clients feel weird. It's just a weird vibe, right? And that's what happens when you get loads of hungry PTs in one space, and then you don't really give them the facilities to actually go and succeed. You get this weird, like toxic vibe. And so you have to be careful of that as well. And the final option is self-employed full rent. That's where you go to a gym, you hand over a wad of cash, and then you do that every month, and then you have full access to the gym. You don't owe them anything, you don't owe them your time, you don't owe them your energy. All you've got to do is now turn up and build your business. You should have full access, right? Now, the gyms that typically offer this, Anytime Fitness offer it, certain Pure gyms offer it, Fitness First offer it, Energy Fitness offer it. A lot of private studios, which is where I work now, so a standalone gym also offer these things. And in my opinion, if you're really just gonna like go for it and smash it, this is probably gonna be your best bet. Now, there are a few reasons why I'm saying that. The first one is you're gonna see way less personal trainers operating on this model. Why? Because it's really hard, right? And this is where you start to, I don't want to make it sound too dramatic and say you're in the upper echelon of personal trainers, but not many PTs can afford to pay full rent every month because they haven't got the business to go and support that. It doesn't make any financial sense for them. But you do start to find that if you go into a gym that only offers full rent, you will see the standard of personal trainer is significantly higher. And you want to be in that space. You want to be around the best trainers because they typically are also the best business people, usually, yeah? So you want to be around that, you want to be learning from them, and you want to be watching them and taking notes. With that being said, you take way more risk and way more responsibility on your shoulders. If you don't make rent, you're out. Doesn't matter if you've got clients in the gym, you have to make your rent. You can't just not pay your rent. The other thing as well, you might be committing to paying rent before you even have any clients. So now you've got 30 days before the next rent payment is due. There's a lot more pressure. It means you have to get after it. You have to get busy. You have to go and get clients. If you don't go and get clients, you don't eat food. Like that's the equation you want to be in if you're anything like me. You want to put pressure on yourself and then execute. Now with this model, your earnings are theoretically unlimited. You can charge whatever you want to charge, whatever you can convince people to pay. If you're in London, you should be looking to earn between 60 and 100K for sure. And if you're outside of London, if you can be earning 40 to 70K, that should be your range. Once you hand over full rent, you're now a marketer, you're a salesperson, you're a personal trainer, you're a therapist, you're a doctor. You do everything now. You're a website designer, you do everything. Everything that in the previous models, the gym kind of handled on your behalf, and as a result, took a huge cut of your potential earnings. Now, that huge cut is available, but now you have to do all the other work as well. It's important to remember that the gym owes you nothing. It doesn't owe you anything, right? But to an extent, it is in their best interest for you to succeed. Why? Well, as an example, if the gym membership is £50 a month and your rental payment is £500 a month, then first of all, they want to keep that 500 rolling in every month. That's the first thing. However, it doesn't owe you anything, and don't overplay your hand and start to get cheeky and cocky. Reason being, they can replace you with 10 members. Like, they can replace your revenue with 10 members. And if you're a salesperson and a general manager of a gym, you'd back yourself to get that in at the most 2 days, probably 1 day. If you really went out for a day, you could go get 10 members. So don't overplay your hand, be respectful, treat everybody well, don't burn bridges, and be sensible in the way you carry yourself as well around the gym. So when you are proper, self-employed, on full rent, keep it in mind that the gym owes you nothing, but if they do help you, and they do help you with leads, it is a bonus. It cannot be an expectation from you, right? I don't care what you said in your interview or what was agreed, unless it's in writing, just forget about it. Because people always say they're going to give each other favors. It doesn't happen, right? Because everyone knows how lucrative personal training clients can be, right? So if you do get something, consider it a bonus and treat people with the gratitude that you should. So those are the 4 models. You have employed, where you don't get a client base. You have employed, where you do get a client base. Then you have self-employed, where you trade hours for rent. And then you have self-employed trading full rent. Now, each of these models has certain benefits and certain drawbacks, so you have to choose which one is best for you. But there are 3 things I want to leave you with. Number 1, before you kind of like dive in and say, that's the one for me, call all the gyms in your area and just make sure that you understand what their PT model is. You've got to just call them up and say, hi, Richard, my name is Alex. Just so I understand, I'm a personal trainer in the area. What is your PT model? How does a personal trainer engage with your business? Second thing, make sure you actually know what everyone does, right? Because I also appreciate that I'm in central London, so there's a gym every 2 minutes that you walk past. For some people, they'll be in much quieter areas of the country or another country, and you may only have the option of 2 gyms, maybe 1 gym. So you might be limited in what you can do, right? But always make sure that you know your market. That's your market, your town, your city, or your postcode, depending on the density. That's your market, so you need to know it like the back of your hand. And the third and final thing is, regardless of which model you go for, try your absolute best to only engage with the gym where you get along well with the management team and you get a good vibe from them. The sales manager, the general manager, even if they don't have any responsibility for your success, they can most certainly make it a lot harder for you to be successful. So they hold a lot of cards, whether they should or they shouldn't, they hold a lot of cards. So make sure that it's a good vibe and a good relationship, and try to nurture that relationship as best as you can, because without it, in any kind of gym atmosphere, you're gonna struggle. And then your only other choice is to go into a private studio, which is the next level of difficult. So I hope that was helpful. As I say, if you find this content useful, please hit the subscribe button, click the little bell so you get notified every time I release a video. I'm planning to release a lot of videos coming soon. I've got about 50 planned in my head and on my notes on my phone. So stay tuned. Hope this is helpful. If you have any comments, please leave them below, and I will see you in the next one.